Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, and join our Facebook community for epic weekly giveaways. What's up, Airsofters? These are the all-new historical Vietnam-era Colt M16 AEGs by EMG Helios. The story of the M16 development, adoption, and evolution is truly fascinating. There's way too much for us to cover in this video, so we highly recommend that you watch some videos and do some reading on the history of the M16. It's got drama, excitement, high stakes, scandals, you name it. It gets pretty crazy. The subject of this video are these two right here, two AEG replicas of the first M16s used by the US Armed Forces during the Vietnam War. This longer one is an Airsoft replica of the first M16 to be deployed in large numbers, the XM16E1. Now, you might notice that the title of this video and the model of the rifle don't exactly line up. And that's honestly because the manufacturer has decided to call this the M16A1. Ultimately, to anyone who isn't a collector, the name is inconsequential. Despite the misnomer, this replica is so cool because of the details that they got right. This early M16 replica has some distinct features that separate it from the A1, such as the lack of protective fencing around the mag release and the iconic tri-lug flash hider. The butt pad on the stock is rubber and does not have a trap door. And the delta ring is straight as opposed to conical. These are great details to know if you're an airsofter who wants to have a historically accurate early Vietnam War loadout. The other AEG I have here is a replica of the first carbine length M16, the XM177E1. It's got the same receiver setup as its longer brother, but it has a two-position collapsible stock and a shorter barrel. And the first appearance of the now iconic M4 style handguard. This really long flash hider out front is actually on the real thing. It's called a moderator and was designed to lessen the sound and blast of the muzzle report. Today, these are exceedingly rare, and having an accurate replica that you can actually go out and play with is exceedingly cool. A quick note about the handguard, as I'm sure you're already furiously commenting. This handguard isn't quite the correct style. Technically, the XM177 should have had a skinnier handguard. But we think they went with the larger handguard to give you more battery compartment space when playing airsoft. Other historically accurate ergonomics on both platforms include the pistol grip, which lacks the finger shelf of the modern A2 style grip. Really, I find the older style grip to be a lot more comfortable and honestly, kind of an improvement on the A2 grip. Of course, you'll notice that on both of these rifles, there's not a single Picatinny rail anywhere. That's simply because these rifles were developed well before modularity was such an important feature of military firearms. If you really want to run an optic, there is a hole on the top of the carry handle here that lets you mount a rail segment available on our website that would allow you to run an optic way up here. But if you ask me, it kind of defeats the purpose of owning an early model replica. Both of these AEGs have aluminum alloy receivers and polymer furniture, just like the real ones. The receivers have period-correct Colt trademarks as they are officially licensed, which really adds to the historical accuracy and appeal. Speaking of period correctness, if you're going to field these rifles and want to be as historically accurate as possible, then you're going to want to get yourself a bunch of 20-round style magazines, like I've got here on the full-size. Now, the full-size rifle comes included with it. The XM177 does come with a full-size 30-round magazine in the box, and really these weren't very often issued with them during the war until very, very late in the war. So most of the fighting was done with 20 rounders, and I encourage you to look for 20-round magazines as backups. There are plenty of 20-round magazines in mid-cap form on the market. The question is the appeal of these rifles all in the looks, or do these AEGs have anything to offer that can compete with modern airsoft guns? I was legitimately impressed with how these perform out of the box. They rip at 25 rounds per second with an 11.1 volt LiPo battery, thanks in part to the internals. For reference, most standard AEGs will do about 18 rounds per second, so 25 is no joke. The FPS was kept nicely around 350 for the carbine and about 380 for the full-size rifle. Internally, these have SEMA's Platinum version 2 gearbox, with some quality parts chosen for the EMG Helios lineup. One quick note for anyone looking to tech on these. There's a plastic shim on the back of the gearbox that's there to prevent wobble between the upper and lower receiver. Just remember to slide this forward, and then you can pull the gearbox out when disassembling. The gears are EMG branded SHS 13:1 ratio. Ride on 8mm bearings, are short stroked by 4 teeth, and are driven by a decently torquey motor that our techs estimate to be close to 19 turns per armature, or TPA. The gearbox shell is reinforced in the front, meaning that the tappet plate has some material removed to accommodate the extra thickness. The polymer piston has full metal teeth and a thrust bearing, as well as an aluminum mushroom type of piston head. The cylinder head is also aluminum, has 2 O-rings, and has a cavity to match the piston head shape. The integrated MOSFET has a micro switch that is compatible with standard AEG triggers, but doesn't have the most tactile trigger brake. Another quirk about this gearbox is the way that the trigger safety is secured, which means slight modification is required to work with drop-in aftermarket MOSFETs like Gate Titans. You only need to remove this little bit here, nothing that a quick Dremel can't handle. While you're at it, we recommend polishing the rails that the piston and tappet plate ride on for an extra smooth operation. Both models also feature a quick change spring system. Once the stock or buffer tube has been removed, the spring can be easily changed without even taking the gearbox out of the receiver. There's a large hex key included in the box for this purpose, or you can just use a large flathead driver. Battery storage on the full-size rifle is in the buttstock, which you can access by loosening this screw and swinging the butt pad out of the way. There's tons of battery storage here. This is one of the huge advantages of a full stock. The carbine has the battery stored under the handguard, meaning it's wired to the front. And that also means that you're gonna have to stick to stick type or nunchuck style batteries. Both are wired to Deans, which is consistent with every EMG Helios AEG. This is the way. The only thing that didn't impress me were the range and magazine compatibilities of both of these. The metal rotary style hop-up was very stiff and could be finely adjusted, but it seemed like it was struggling to loft 0.25 gram BBs at distance. Now that could just be the bucking, which would be easy to swap if it wasn't dunked in red Loctite. Come on, man. BBs will hit a 6-inch target at 100 feet with ease, but in our testing, because we had just taken them out of the box and hadn't cleaned the barrels or anything, we found that accuracy wasn't ideal beyond that distance. So if you plan on running these seriously, upgrading the barrel and bucking as well as the hop-up, things will be amazing on the field. I do recommend cleaning the barrels the minute you get them and before you take them out to play, as it'll maximize your performance right out of the box. As for mag compatibility, it didn't like about half of the magazines we tried. I have a feeling this is mostly to do with the nozzle not lining up just right, because most mags should feed just fine at 25 rounds per second. In any case, we've provided this nice handy screen for you to reference if you plan on leaving this thing stock. Needless to say, they fed great with their factory-provided magazines. It's an understatement to say that the M4 and M16 has been done to death in airsoft. And I really appreciate that brands are starting to come out with more vintage and historically accurate platforms instead of just adding on the new latest billet styling and controls and, Keymod M-Lock, Picatinny rail options and, new rails and stuff like that. And I think that there certainly is a place in airsoft for a vintage styled, excellent performing AEG like the EMG Colt series of M16s. Their vintage line not only looks historically accurate and super cool, but it blends performance with gorgeous styling in a way that not a whole lot of brands are doing. So if you're looking for a vintage piece that's more than just a wall hanger, the EMG Helios line of Colt M16s in their Vietnam War era beautiful styling, then these are the ones to check out. Find them on our website right here at Evike.com. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.